welcome to the Courageous Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we discuss, well, we being me, self-care that goes beyond bubble baths, chocolate, and wine. It is the self-care that can get uncomfortable, that you might not know about before hearing about it, and that changes your life for the better, giving you more happiness and energy and vitality. Be sure to watch all the way to the end. I'll be sharing a resource with you. Today, we are focusing on the second foundation of courageous self-care. Now, we just wrapped up the first foundation. We did a month on that, and it was all about shifting your relationship with time. That's a great place to start if you haven't had a chance to listen at all to the podcast yet, because how we interact with time and how we think about it and feel about it affects every single moment of our day. Today we're moving into foundation number 2. This one is a little bit out there, a little bit esoteric, but when I work with clients and at my workshops and retreats that I do, this is the main issue that I see people having, in particular women. So let's dive in. Now, it has a little bit of a weird name, this foundation. It is how to have harmonic energy. I'm going to explain that. So first of all, let's define harmony and energy. That will help us know what this foundation is all about. So harmony means agreement or concord. Another definition is a pleasing arrangement of parts. We're going to be talking specifically about the energy of feminine energy and masculine energy. So creating that harmony between those two energies in each human being will create a pleasing arrangement of parts. Those are the parts of you, masculine and feminine energy. Now, energy is the strength and vitality required for sustained physical or mental activity. And if you think about it, that's pretty much all we're doing, physical or mental activity. And wouldn't it be nice if we could sustain it throughout each day rather than going up and down and up and down and having these incredible highs and these really dramatic lows? Sustained energy for that physical and mental activity. The other definition of energy is the power derived from the utilization of resources. Our resources are our feminine energy and our masculine energy. And when we learn how to harmonize those to create a pleasing congruence between those two, we get power. Empowerment is a big word these days. We want to feel empowered because then we can share who we are with the world with confidence and full self-expression, living our purpose and our passion. Harmonizing our masculine and feminine energies allows us to tap into that power and express it more fully. So when I do sessions with clients, this is often the first thing that comes up because for the most part, women tend to be very much in their masculine energy. And through no fault of our own has that happened. I will tell you a little bit of a story about my journey with masculine and feminine energy. I, for the longest time, identified with masculine energy, although I didn't have that language around it. I remember reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus by John Gray, and I could not identify at all with the part about women. I didn't know that women behaved the way that he described. I didn't understand what he was talking about. And as I read the masculine, the male part being from Mars, I thought, I'm so confused because this is how I live. I like to keep things to myself. I basically created my own man cave. And the part about expression and connection, I just didn't understand at all. So I was perplexed. Then I went Well, I did a deep dive into personal development over the course of 10 years. I'm still doing it because it's just so yummy. I love learning and finding out who I am and sharing that person with others. So, anyways, at one point during my personal development, I learned about feminine energy, and I could not identify with it at all. How it was explained to me is that what we have been told as women are our weaknesses are actually our greatest strengths. So, our capacity and ability to tune into our emotions. On the flip side, we've been told we're too emotional and unpredictable. Another weakness that is actually a strength is our intuition. Many women have learned to shut that down because in a man's world or the patriarchal world that we live in, often we are asked for hard facts and reasons and logic, not for, I just have a feeling. So these were some of the things I was told were our strengths, and I certainly wasn't living that way. Also, a woman's ability to flow and wind and curve through life, not being on a straight line. I didn't understand that. I was very goal oriented. If I set a goal, I moved towards it no matter what. That was part of the masculine side that I was living in. So I learned about this feminine energy. And as it turned out, it was pretty fantastic energy to get to know. It was like uncovering this whole side of myself that I'd never tuned into. So what happened was because I'll explain the pendulum theory to you. So let's say that there's a pendulum that swung all the way up to one side. And that is when we are behaving in a way that is fanatical or there's no room for any other information. So for me, I was living way up in the masculine side of the pendulum, up as high as it could go. When we learn about something new and want to immerse ourselves in it, often that pendulum swings completely to the other side. And that's what I did when I learned about feminine energy. I decided I wasn't going to have any sort of organization to my life. I was just going to go with the flow. I was only going to do what I felt like doing. And I swung way up to the other side. Bless my dear husband, Paul, for dealing with me when I was way over in that feminine energy, because he would come home and I would say, oh, I didn't feel like cooking today, so no dinner plans, whoops. And he would work with me to create dinner, or he would just do it himself. And he rode that roller coaster while I was up having fun in the feminine side. That tends to be the way that I do things. I need to immerse myself to figure out something new. And that's what I did. So I was way over on that feminine energy. And that's how I got to know about it. It was fun. After a few months, though, it wasn't sustainable either. There was no form, there was no focus. I was accomplishing nothing. And for me, I get a lot of enjoyment and pleasure and satisfaction and fulfillment out of accomplishing things. So that part of my life had completely disappeared. And while it was very relaxing and I was able to reduce my stress levels, I was no longer feeling fulfilled. So that was living too much on the feminine side. Finding harmony between those two means bringing that pendulum down to the middle, where we get to consciously choose, right now, I have a goal to accomplish. I'm going to access my feminine energy. No, sorry, masculine energy. And then swinging into the other side, I need to experience some flow. Right now, I'm going to consciously choose my feminine energy. That's where we want to live. So something that's very interesting about this whole topic is that several of the world's most prominent spiritual teachers have said, and I heard them live, they have all said the greatest challenge facing humanity right now is the acceptance of the divine feminine. So, for a long time, as a society, globally, we've been living in the divine masculine, and it's been necessary for our consciousness as human beings. It's been necessary for our development. And now is the time for the divine feminine to come through. There are going to be, or there are currently, two types of people who are reacting to this divine feminine flow. It's coming no matter what. So there are the early adjusters. They are able to accept that that's happening, tune into that feminine energy, and learn to flow and have that pendulum swing between the two energies. The other type of reaction is people who are holding on desperately to the old paradigm and will do whatever it takes to ensure that life continues to be the same up until as it has been up until now. So those are people who are really struggling with feminine energy. Unfortunately, it's going to change no matter what. So we get to either choose to be early adapters and learn how to flow between this masculine and feminine energy, which is what I'll be talking about all month here on the Courageous Self-Care podcast, or we can barricade it and try to stop it, but it's going to happen anyways. Life is going to be much harder for people who choose that route. Now, we have a few more minutes, so I want to cover briefly feminine power and masculine power. There is nothing wrong with either of them. The only problem is when we choose to live in one or the other, we're not living in that harmonic energy. We're not getting the benefit from each of those kinds of energy. On a show later on, I'm going to explain specifically how you can recognize masculine energy, how you can recognize feminine energy. That's coming up. So do be sure to tune in again. I love this topic. It's fascinating, and I have seen it change so many lives, starting with my own. To wrap things up, I wanted to tell you about the resource I have for you, which is the it is the self-care style quiz. I would love to invite you to take this quiz to learn your self-care style. You can get your quiz access the quiz at ChristinaMarlette.com. The other thing you can do while you're there is if you're interested in appearing as a guest expert on this podcast, there's an application there. And I have my guest experts share a story of courage, because when one person talks about courage, it ripples out and gives other people collective courage so that they can act with more courage in their lives. Harmonic energy, foundation number 2 of courageous self-care. That's what we're diving into this month, learning how to swing back and forth between that masculine and feminine energy so that we can be whole people, each of us, and then we don't have to go out looking for other people to fill holes in us. We are complete whole units, and when we have that harmonic energy, our relationships become so much more deep and fulfilling. Thank you very much for tuning in today. The Courageous Self-Care podcast airs Monday through Friday, so be sure to come back and listen again. I'll leave you with this thought. Self-care is not selfish. It is the very last thing in relation to selfishness, because when you prioritize your own well-being, you are taking a stand for yourself. You are giving yourself more energy. You're carving out boundaries. You're teaching people how to treat you. And everyone actually benefits from that. So be sure to prioritize your own well-being this week. I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Be sure to visit ChristinaMarlette.com to take the quiz. I'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye for now.